Hi, my name is Tessa Burns, and I'm Archivist here at Hershey Community Archives. We are inside of our collection storage facility here at the Hershey Story Museum in Hershey, PA. We heard from the producers at Pablo Torre Finds Out, asking us about one particular event in Hershey sports history, which was Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game at the Hershey Arena.
And this puzzle piece, it turns out, was the full fourth quarter. But it wasn't taped in Hershey at all, actually. It was taped at UMass Amherst by an aspiring student broadcaster named Jim, who listened by rigging his transistor radio to the 5-story heating pipe in his dormitory. And that night, in that dorm, Jim broke out a reel-to-reel tape recorder, apparently, the one his girlfriend had been using for elocution lessons. And many years later, those reels would finally find their way back home.
So I did some searching in our collections, and I was very excited to find this box right here. So this is from our Hershey Entertainment and Resorts Company collection. And when we look inside, you can see we have some audio-visual material, some CDs, cassette tape, and then the most exciting item here is this 5 3/4-inch reel-to-reel tape. So this is an audio recording format. It's magnetic media. If we look inside, you can see that we do have, in fact, the original tape.
Not even the Basketball Hall of Fame has the tape of Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game, by the way, as their historian explained to us. They've never even had an official exhibit devoted to Wilt. But this show now has 2 independently sourced recordings of the pivotal fourth quarter, plus a third, entirely different box of tapes that I need to tell you about. Because this is a box of tapes that contains Gary's interviews, which we're going to curate for you as part of this exhibit here today.
Well, that's the joy of it to me. You know, that's what the attorneys call discovery. You know, you go and immerse yourself, full immersion. And I would travel far and wide to find these people. And it becomes an obsession. You know, what about that?
Yes.
I called Bill Campbell so many times. The last time I called him, I said, "Bill, it's Gary Pomerantz." And he said, "Not again." And that's just, Bill, one more thing, one more question. Two more questions.
We can relate. We can relate here. You know, Gary, one of our joys was that we actually did unearth your 22-year-old interview tapes because at Emory University, at the Rare Book Library, manuscript collection number 890, we found your archive. And just tell me how you feel as we go back to March 1962.
WCAU, WCAU-FM in Philadelphia. The time is 3:30.
Off and we're ready to go. And here's Bill Campbell.
Here's the big fourth quarter, and everybody's thinking how many's Wilt got to get. He's got 69 gone in. Here's the pass to him. He's got another one.
Well, Wilt's got 69 points going into the fourth quarter, right? And so he still needs 31 points. You know, that's a lot of points.
Rogers. Rogers takes the jump shot. It's no good. Chamberlain with a rebound. Pops it in. Chamberlain.
And he just scored 28 points in the third quarter. And the Knicks are just going through the motions. It's a 10, 15, 20-point lead the Warriors have.
Inside to Adams, to Chamberlain. He's got it. 133 to 114, and the fellas on the Warrior bench are jumping for joy for him. Every time he scores, they will jump up in a body.
Now, the NBA didn't find out about this tape until 1990. And it's like, wait, what? That's just the way things were then.
We're just conjecturing here how many can he make. He's got 9 minutes and 24 seconds left, and the guesses are running as high as 100.
So this is Bill Campbell that you're hearing. This is the play-by-play announcer in Philly, WCAU, the radio broadcast. But it's one of your interviewees, a primary source here, who is in the game somewhere on the court, Joe Rucklick, that I wanted to ask you about, because Joe Rucklick sounds like he might be a guest on the McAfee show at times, revisiting some of these tapes. Hearing you in 2003 talk to Joe Rucklick is a time machine inside of a time machine.
Well, Joe was the Kennedy liberal from Northwestern.
when I got there as their first draft choice that season out of Northwestern behind Wilt. Wilt was technically first.
He was Wilt's backup. Now think about it. When you're the backup to a player who never comes out of the game, you don't play very much. But he observed a lot, and he was a very keen observer. Joe also was into conspiracy theories. And Joe said, wait a minute, why did this tape just appear 28 years later? And Joe said he questioned whether Bill Campbell had recreated it.
Right. I don't think Campbell was there, but you know what?
So what are you saying? If I get a tape, what are you saying about the tape?
I think you get the last few minutes.
That's all. I think it's only the last quarter.
Yeah. Oh, less than that. I've got it.
You do?
I think it's fake. But
really?
Anyway, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's fake?
Well, his allegation seems to be even a little more pointed than that. It was that Bill Campbell wasn't even there, actually. He wasn't really the announcer.
If it's a fake, it illustrates the nonsense that the NBA perpetrates about those days. It was a Bush league. I mean, it was really Bush.
Bill Campbell was there. Bill Campbell and I spoke, and he talked about dreading going to Hershey, for game 75 of an 80-game season.
It was annoying because instead of doing a home game at home, we had to go to Hershey. Players weren't happy either.
It's a long drive, and it sure would be nice to be playing it, at home in Philadelphia.
Wilt, in order to come to that game, took a train. I remember him being there early.
But he remembered vividly the game and the details.
Everything was such consummate ease. It was effortless. They float the ball up, and he'd go out and get it and dunk it. They knew something unnatural was going to happen here, and they offered.
As for just how Bush League Game 75 really was, I should acknowledge that Joe Rucklick, dead wrong about the tape of the fourth quarter being this false flag operation. Also, relatedly, it's funny that none of the online conspiracists that we mentioned before did enough research to be able to cite Joe Rucklick's theory in the first place. But it is pretty easy to imagine why the whole event did feel a bit confused.
This is played in an arena that's built for the hockey team, the Hershey Bears. There's not, during this game, a big screen where it says, number 13, big fella, how many shots attempted, made, free throws attempted, made, assists, etc. There's just a cold, metallic, boxy scoreboard up in the netherland of this place that says, Philadelphia, New York. Even the people who are watching the game don't have context.
But Wilt Chamberlain, as he later explained in an interview with Bob Costas, was keeping score.
The game starts, I'm fairly warm. I'm really warm from the foul. I'm not missing anything from the foul. That should have gave me some kind of hint that,
Yeah, you made 28 of 32 from the foul line that night, which is good for anybody and staggering for you.
I appreciate that. Right, staggering for me, you understand? But I was even better than that the first half. I was missing nothing. I was 100%, remember, you understand? So I said, hey, things are going pretty good. And I had, I think, like 41 points at halftime, and I was shooting well.
And one big reason Wilt was playing so well is that the Knicks' starting center was out sick. And apparently, kind of hungover. And so yes, Wilt would go on to average 50 points a game that season, but the man primarily tasked with stopping the single most unstoppable offensive performance in basketball history, arguably all of sports history, was not supposed to be starting that night. And instead, what he became was the answer to a trivia question forever.
This is an interview with Darrall Imhoff, Imhoff, in Eugene, Oregon, on July 8th, 2003.
By the way, I double tape in case one tape fails.
Oh, okay. Isn't this interesting?
Okay. Yeah, so...
Gosh.
Darrall was a second-year player, 6'10", left-handed, and he was primarily a defender. At times a rough defender. He would become known as the Axe for axing, shooters' arms.
Wilt Wilt was an attraction, and I, I was going to have to spend the next, that night in his armpit, so I wasn't looking forward to that stuff.
And one of the things that was so interesting, he was then working in Eugene, Oregon, at the U.S. Basketball Academy, a training ground. And we walked by an open court, and I said, Darrall, could you come here for a second? I stood in the middle of the lane. I said, show me how you defended Wilt that night. Wilt, Imhoff said, would arch his back, and it was like a tree, and Darrall's behind him down low. He said it was like a tree was going to fall down on me. I said, so what would you do? And he said, I did this. And he took the point of his elbow and put it in my rhomboids right between the shoulder blades. And Darrall could still inflict some pain all these years later. But he said he would position himself behind Wilt when Wilt's down on the offensive left side, down by where we would now see the block. The block didn't exist then. And he would put his knee into the back of his thigh to collapse his leg. He would put his foot inside of Wilt's left foot to keep him from turning in. Darrall played only 20 minutes and fouled out. He was in and out of the game, so he played some in the second half. 6 fouls covering Wilt. The tallest, next tallest player the Knicks had was 6'8" rookie Cleveland Buckner. 6'8", they said 210 pounds. He's probably 185, 190. He was a stick. He scored 33 points that night, too, I might add. It was a career night for him. What a night to have a career night. 7.5 minutes are left when Wilt, he scores, and Harvey Pollack, statistician, he passes over a sheet of paper to the PA announcer, the great Dave Zinkoff. Zinkoff then announces, Wilt Chamberlain has just set a new record for most points in a game. He has 79 points, breaking his 78 points scored in a 3 overtime game earlier that season. And while he's announcing that, Wilt makes, shooting underhanded, 2 more free throws to go to 80 and 81.
On the PA, they're announcing the new record of 79, and during the announcement, Chamberlain goes right ahead through the announcement and makes a foul. They're still making the announcement. He makes another foul. Chamberlain didn't even listen to it. He just made 2 straight fouls. He now has 81 points.
Granny style.
Granny style. I mean, he looked ridiculous doing it because he's so big. He would squat down low. His knees would flare out. He looked like an adult trying to sit in a kindergartner's chair.
What did Darrall say to you particularly, Gary, if you recall, in your interview with him about the refs?
He just thought they loved Wilt. And, that at one point they called a foul against Imhoff that Imhoff did not think was a foul.
And he started backing in, and I held my position, and Willie Smith had called me for a foul. And I said, Willie, I'm allowed a position. And I said, why don't you give the guy 100 points, we'll all go home.
I mean, you did say that. You said,
right? Yeah, I said that. Why don't you give him 100 points, we'll all go home. And he did.
Going in for the layup, up with the shot, no good. Chamberlain rebounds, good. Chamberlain rebounds and scores, and he's fouled. 145 to 126. Darrall Imhoff fouled him. He has 83.
And the game took on, Darrall would call it a farce.
My word is a farce. It was a farce of a game. It was not, I don't think it was a legitimate type of thing where a guy goes out in the course of the event. I mean, we had guys score 60 points. Elgin Baylor scored 60 points against us in the guard. I mean, that was a legitimate, great performance. Jerry West had 60 against us in the sports arena against
same year
in that year. It was one of those things where guys had individual performances that were great, but it wasn't done the way that one was done, and that's what makes that a farce. I don't see it as one of the great games ever, and I think the 100-point game is totally out of context with what we consider the great games that were played in the NBA by great players.
So this is where I need to observe that everybody who's been trying to undermine Wilt's record by asking if it really happened has been asking the wrong question. Because what Darrall Imhoff is arguing here as one of the principles is not that the 100-point game never took place. What Darrall is arguing is that compared to other great performances, Wilt's 100 was abnormal and ultimately illegitimate, to the point of being, quote, a farce.
With 7.5 minutes to play and everybody realizing now what the stakes were, the Knicks started not quite stalling, but sort of. Couple extra passes. Then they start running a weave down court, taking the ball in 94 feet from the basket. The Warriors start committing fouls of the Knicks to get the ball back quicker, to get the ball to Wilt.
And cross-court to Butcher as they eat up as much time as they can. Butcher to the circle and fouled by Rogers. Warriors figured the only way to combat the New York Storm was to come out and foul the backcourt men themselves.
If somebody walked into the arena and they see the Warriors fouling and the Knicks stalling, they're going to think the Knicks are ahead by 20, not the Warriors. That's where it breaks down.
Knowles is fouled by Joe Recklick, and they almost came to blows. New York, of course, you can understand the Knickerbockers' feelings. They're a little upset having it rubbed in a little bit like this with a guy on a scoring rampage.
Whether or not it became a farce is a serious question. You know, when the structure of the game breaks down and the team that's 20 points behind is stalling, something's weird, something's strange.
Yeah, you got a situation where you're feeding somebody intentionally to make something happen, but that's what was going on. I mean, it wasn't in the flow of the game. Now, the first half, over the first 3 quarters, it was certainly in the flow of the game. But when they started doing some things intentionally to foul and getting him the ball and left him in the game when the game was already over, I mean, it was obvious they were out to prove something, and so they did.
There's a moment, just in terms of recreating when people began to realize we're witnessing something that we'll be talking about forever. There's the moment where Bill Campbell, the play-by-play guy on the radio broadcast, says,
What a night. Work this night down. Chamberlain on the line. Foul shot up in the air. He has 84. 146 to 126. If you know anybody not listening, call them up. A little history you're sitting in on tonight.
This brings us, as we get deeper into the fourth quarter, Gary, to the 98-point mark. So the psychology of the 98-point moment here. Who gets the ball to Wilt? How does this play unfold here?
Well, there's a guard named York Larisi, and he's leading the fast break. And so he doesn't see Wilt behind him, but he hears the big fella, the mighty huff and puff. He feels the vibration of the floor when Chamberlain's moving. And so he just, as he's going straight at the basket, he doesn't distribute left or right. He just sort of throws the ball up and continues on underneath the basket past the baseline and out of play, at which point he looks back and sees Wilt, the mighty dipper, grabbing the ball, fully extended, my arms leaving the screen, and then slams it in one movement.
Larisi with the ball down the right side, passes to Chamberlain. He's open, he shoots, he scores. 167 to 145. He has 98.
What was the call? What was the sequence of events to get to the number?
Well, Wilt would have 3 attempts at the 100-point basket. And in fact, one of them came after he scored on that slam dunk to hit 98. He started to run down court and quickly turned around and stole the ball.
Chamberlain steals the inbound pass. No good.
And missed it from around the free throw line. Then he'd get 2 more attempts. And there's 50 seconds left, and now the Warriors have the ball. And Guy Rodgers, who would have 20 assists on this night, a wonderful passer, he throws the ball down court, length of the court, to Wilt, who jumps, catches it because the next tallest Knick is 5 inches shorter.
Rodgers throws long to Chamberlain. He's got it. He's trying to get up. He shoots. No good. The rebound, Luckenbill.
And Ted Luckenbill, a rookie, comes in, gets the rebound, gets it to Wilt again.
Back to Chamberlain. He shoots up. No good. In and out.
He misses. Luckenbill again.
Rebound, Luckenbill. Back to Recklick. Into Chamberlain. He made it. He made it. A different goal. He made it. The fans are all over the floor. They start People are crowding, pounding him, banging him. The Warrior players are all over him. Fans are coming out of the stands. 46 seconds left. The most amazing scoring performance of all time. 100 points for the Big Dipper.
An adrenalized moment for the fans and for Wilt until he gets to the locker room and sees the stat sheet. He's sitting next to Al Attles. And he's shaking his head, and Attles says, "What's the matter, big fella?" He said, "I can't believe I took 63 shots, 21 of them in the fourth quarter." And Attles said, "That's okay. You made 36 of them. That's all right." The criticism against Wilt is not his athleticism. It's always that he cared more about himself and his own statistics rather than the greater good of the team. And this night, he thought, for many years, reflected that criticism in a big way.